we are continuing on with video number 2 in this series, How to Buy a Business. And in this video, we're going to be talking about probably one of the most important components of evaluating a business to buy, and that's the financial and fiscal due diligence. What is happening with the finance? It's all about making money. And so is the business that you are looking at, is it making money? Is it spending money correctly? And what are the components that tell you whether it's doing a good job or there's improvement that needs to take place? So let's jump right in. The first thing that I want to talk about in the financial and fiscal due diligence is the age of the business that you're buying. This is so important because when we look at financial and fiscal due diligence, we need to be looking at trends over time. And also, I want to note here that just because you have an older business doesn't mean you have a better business. So age is relative, and it can mean that you've got a good indication of what the business is doing, but older doesn't necessarily mean better, and younger doesn't necessarily mean worse. But you do want to understand what the age of the business is, because if it is in startup mode or it is a brand new business, businesses have a higher likelihood of failure in the first 5 years. So you want to be paying attention to the age of that business. Now, let's say you've taken a look and the business has a long history and you've got plenty of financial data to evaluate. So what are you going to be looking at when you jump into that business's financial statements? Well, the first thing is you're going to be looking at the consistency of the revenue and the profitability. So where Eric Scroggins' eyes go are to the bottom line first of a profit. Now, okay, let me make a side note here. In order to evaluate the financials, you need a couple of statements. You need a P&L, profit and loss, and you need a balance sheet. And those two statements need to be produced on the same date. For instance, December 31st, 2025 for the balance sheet and the income statement. And I can talk about in a future series how to evaluate those two statements together. But in order to do this fiscal due diligence, you at least need a profit and loss statement that shows you net income at the bottom. And so you're going to be looking at, my eyes go right to the profitability. Am I making money or am I losing money? Now, there's some calculations that may be in that financial statement that we're going to want to add back, but we'll talk about that in a future class. But profitability is key. If you've got a company and you look at the P&L and you drop your eyes to the bottom and that number's positive, it gives you an indication or a thumbs up that you can look further. The next thing is my eyes go right to the top to the revenue line. Now, financials that are produced in one statement period don't have a lot of value. You need to be looking at these statements over a period. In other words, December 31st, 23, 24, and 25. 3 years of history can give you a good indication of the trends of that business's revenue and profitability. So when I look at the top line, I'm looking at revenue. Are we selling what we say we're selling? And what does that revenue look like over a period of time? Is it going up? Is it going down? Or is it flat? Revenue that is going down is an indicator that the business may be struggling and having difficulty with sustainability over a long period of time. And you may want to start asking some questions about how long will it take you to get sales going back in an upward direction rather than in a downward direction. It may be something that causes you some concern. So consistency of revenue and profitability. The next thing is, has the model evolved with the market? So what that means is, even if the revenue is flat, has the model of the business been able to keep up with changes in the marketplace, changes in the demands, changes in products, changes in variations of sales, all of those evolutions of a market? We want to know that our business can keep up and can move and change with the marketplace so that you can continue to make money. So that's evaluating the financials. The next piece is raw materials or input. So in a business that is producing a product that has raw materials, for instance, it would be a manufacturing company that is producing some sort of product, right? So if you're manufacturing a cell phone, are the components that put that cell phone together, those are called the raw materials. And we want to know, are those materials easily sourced? If there is only one supplier of materials for that particular product, that may be a concern, because if that guy goes out of business, where are you going to get your raw materials to produce your product? So are they easily sourced? Are the costs of those products stable or volatile? So when you're buying the raw materials that input into your product or service, are those costs skyrocketing? Are they staying stable? Are they going down? Are they volatile? They're changing every single month. It's just something to know as you calculate the risk for the business that you're trying to buy. Now, you may not be buying a business with raw materials, so you're not making anything. You might be a service-based or distribution-based business that wouldn't have raw materials. But the other question is, what are the inputs that come into that business to make it so that you have something to sell? Now, another layer of this is supplier relationships that you can inherit. So if Mr. Seller has great relationships with his raw material sellers or suppliers, can you transfer that relationship to you? And is it a good relationship that will allow you to buy product from them at a decent price and then manufacture your product or service and sell it out into the marketplace? So this is a big area that you want to be taking a look at: the raw materials supply, the ease, the cost, and the volatility there. Another layer of this conversation related to financial and fiscal due diligence is related to the owner dependence. What this means is, if the guy who's selling you or girl that's selling you the business leaves, does the revenue drop significantly? A business that is heavily owner dependent has a tremendous amount more risk than one that is independent of its owner. Now, many businesses through their life cycle operate in an owner dependency. But a seller who is prepared to sell will begin to disconnect himself from that business's operation, and you need to be looking for that. So in the owner dependency, we want to know, is this current owner a rainmaker? Is he the lead estimator? Is there only one vendor relationship with that particular owner and it goes away? Or is this something that you can expand and you can take over? And is this owner the face of the business? So everybody in the market knows that this guy, let's call him Joe, is this business, and without him, there is no business. So an owner-dependent business is riskier and it affects the valuation. If you're going to have a business like that and you're going to acquire one, you need to take it into account when you're buying it. So that requires a reduced price than maybe they're willing to accept. So just look at that valuation as you are evaluating your business. Okay. Another layer of fiscal responsibility comes with you asking some really strong due diligence questions. Things like this: are the taxes filed? Now, I talked about this as a red flag in the first video, but this is where you're really going to get proof that they have filed their taxes over a long period of time, forever since the business has been in place. You want to make sure that there's no surprises looming in the closet that you aren't aware of. Are the financials clean and consistent? Has there been a change in financial methodology or financial reporting over a period of time, and why? So there's two financial models that people will use with their accountants. There's what's called accrual-based accounting and cash-based accounting. And I can dig into those in another video, but what sometimes companies will convert from cash to accrual, and you need to look at why they made that decision and how that affected their financial statements as you're evaluating them. Just make sure that they're clean and consistent. You also want to know what the debt profile looks like. This is going to be something you're going to want the seller to disclose to you from the very beginning. What does the debt profile look like? Are they carrying a lot of debt? Is it debt you're going to inherit? Are they going to pay off the debt with the proceeds of the sale? What are the relationships with their lenders, and how have those relationships been treated over time? So big question to ask, and something you're going to want them to certify. You're going to want something that's not going to be on a debt profile, but does the business pay their bills on time? This is something that you really need to dig into with the vendors. Calling the vendors and saying, hey, listen, I'm thinking about acquiring XYZ business. I just want to check our pay history over the last year, 2 years, 5 years. Let me know how we've been doing in terms of paying our bills with you. This can indicate mismanagement. It can indicate that there may be money leaking from the company that you're not aware of. Bills that are not paid on time or not paid at all should be a huge concern for you as you're acquiring a business. So those are all the fiscal and financial responsibilities related to some serious questions that you need to ask. And then in order to really dig into the fiscal responsibility, we need to be thinking about current operations. So is the management strong? Are we maximizing every hour that an employee is working? Are they strong leaders? Are they visionaries? How are they spending their time as leaders in the organization? Are there clear processes that you have? Does everybody understand what the job is and what they're supposed to do? This will be related to clear vision as well when you're looking at the current operations. I remember coaching a business a while back, and the owner thought that he was communicating his vision and he had processes for completing that vision. And then I interviewed the entire team and no one really knew where they were going. So you want to jump in and make sure you do some interviews once you're at a place where you can disclose that you're a potential buyer, and make sure that the processes are very clear and that you understand exactly what's happening there. Effective scheduling. Are deadlines being met? Are schedules being kept? Do clients get what they expect? And do we over deliver but under promise? All of those things are powerful indicators of a business that's being run effectively. Inventory control. Talked about raw materials a moment ago, but if you walk into the shop and you're looking at the inventory and there's a tremendous amount of raw materials or inventory that is there that isn't being sold, raw materials that aren't being used, things that are just sitting around, it may give you an indication that there's some challenges in the financials that you want to pay attention to. And then good labor cost structure. Are we paying to keep our employees or are we overpaying them for being on board with us? There could be an indication of some morale issues, some things that you need to jump into to really understand who works for you, how much they're getting paid, and are they excited about working for the organization? So let's talk about some inefficiencies, right? As you're looking at the business and you're talking about fiscal responsibilities, efficiencies are powerful. Inefficiencies can bankrupt you, right? So things like no marketing, no automation, poor staffing models, pricing strategies that are outdated. Maybe you're not selling for enough in the marketplace, or your pricing is out of date and people are willing to pay more than you're charging for the product. You're not marketing. So there's no one communicating your message to the marketplace, or no automation. And I talked about this in the previous video. You could add automation and change the efficiencies of an organization and really make it more profitable than it has ever been before. So look for the inefficiencies in the organization. Those are opportunities for you to really maximize profit and make money when there has been maybe not a lot of profit being made up to that point. All right, let's talk about the owner that's selling. We want to talk about this. This is part of the fiscal responsibilities, and it should be of great concern to you. So is the owner willing to stay? Now, when you're buying a business, it's typical that 30 to 90 days is common for the owner to be willing to stay on board and make sure that you transition well, that you understand all the processes and procedures, where the problems are happening in the organization, where concerns should be, that it's a training period that should be written into your deal so that you understand exactly what you're doing with that owner when they leave. You also, with the owner that's willing to stay, you want to ensure that there's a clear path and plan for them, that they will transfer their knowledge, that their relationships will transfer, that their credibility will transfer, and that you have the ability to grab a hold of that business and really make sure that it has a highest likelihood of success. So this is fiscal and financial responsibilities. You want to make sure that you're asking all these questions, reviewing all these documents, and make sure that the deal is really fit for you. So this has been fiscal and financial responsibility. We're going to be jumping into the structure of the deal in just a moment. Man, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so excited, and I hope your business buying ventures are profitable.